When was the last time that you heard Nigel Farage say anything positive about Britain's future? He can't. He doesn't like Britain, doesn't believe in Britain.
To accuse countless millions of being racist is a very, very low blow.
Keir Starmer held a mirror up to the British right, and they couldn't stand what they saw. So they invented a lie that he called voters racist. But this isn't about protecting voters, this is about the media and the politicians they now prop up, trying to hide their own shame for platforming and defending racist policies. So let's break down what actually happened, what Starmer really said, and expose the lie they are so desperately afraid of. Let's get one thing crystal clear. Keir Starmer did not call Reform voters racist. In fact, he did the exact opposite. In an interview, when asked directly if he thinks Reform voters are racist, he said,
No, I think that there are plenty of people who either vote Reform or are thinking of voting Reform who are frustrated. They had 14 years of failure under the Conservatives. They want us to change things. They may have voted Labour a year ago, and they want the change to come more quickly.
He couldn't have been more clearer. He drew a bright line between voters and a specific policy. What he did do in his conference speech and in the days around it was call out one of Reform's UK flagship immigration proposals as racist and immoral. And he was right. He was talking about their plan to scrap indefinite leave to remain. This is a move that would retroactively threaten the status of hundreds of thousands of people who have lived and worked here legally for years, built their lives here and have every right to call this country home. Starmer argued that reaching into the lives of people lawfully here, our neighbours, our colleagues, and threatening them with removal would
Tear our country apart.
He wasn't attacking the person, he was attacking the policy, a specific, cruel and unworkable set of ideas. Speech was a direct challenge to Nigel Farage's entire political brand. Starmer framed the debate as one between
That's national renewal
and the
politics of grievance.
He accused Farage of being a
Snake oil merchant
who doesn't believe in Britain and only wants to
stir the pot of division.
He asked seriously whether Farage and Reform actually love our
Beautiful, tolerant, diverse country.
This was a direct assault not on voters, but on the ideology of Faragism itself. You won't know that if your only news source was the right-wing media in the days that followed. They saw their chance and took it. An army of commentators and front pages immediately twisted Starmer's words into a deliberate, calculated smear. They claimed he had branded millions of people as racist. Farage himself went live on social media, proclaiming that Starmer was, by implication, calling all Reform supporters racists. It was a coordinated and completely dishonest piece of political theatre, a lie designed to do one thing: change the subject. The question is, what are they so desperate to hide? The outrage from the right-wing press and Farage himself is a masterclass in hypocrisy. For weeks, they've been utterly obsessed with him. The Telegraph ran a cartoon joking that delegates should go to the Reform conference because, at least there, they don't talk about Nigel Farage all the time. Farage himself complained that Labour was obsessive and that his name dominated their conference. And yet, this is the exact same media ecosystem that gives Farage a platform day in and day out. He has his own show on KGBBs. His every word is treated as breaking news, and his trips to America to court Donald Trump's MAGA movement gets wall-to-wall coverage. They criticise Starmer for even mentioning Farage, while dedicating endless column inches and airtime to amplifying his every grievance. They act shocked that the Prime Minister is taking on the leader of a rival party, as if that's some sort of outrageous breach of protocol. So, what's really going on here? It's pretty simple. The right-wing media is in a trap of its own making. With the Conservative Party in disarray, they have nowhere else to turn. They've hitched their wagon on Nigel Farage. Not out of love, but out of a desperate need for a right-wing political project to champion. They are now the cheerleaders of a party whose policies they know deep down are indefensible to a mainstream audience. This creates a painfully awkward alliance. They're forced to defend policies that, in any sane political climate, would be seen as extreme. When Starmer called out Reform's indefinite leave to remain policy as racist, he wasn't just attacking Farage, he was attacking the new political home of the British right and, by extension, the press that enables it. The lie that Starmer called voters racist is nothing but a deflection. It's a desperate attempt to reframe the debate. They can't defend the policy on its merits because it's morally repugnant and deeply unpopular, so they have to invent an attack on the voters instead. It's a shield to protect themselves from confronting the ugly reality of what they now support. This isn't about protecting the electorate, it's about protecting their own editorial line. It's about hiding their own complicity. Let's be crystal clear about the policy that the right-wing press are so desperate to avoid talking about. Reform UK's proposal to abolish indefinite leave to remain is one of the most radical and cruel immigration policies put forward in modern British politics. This isn't about stopping boats or securing borders, their favourite talking points. This is about retroactively targeting people who are already here legally, people who have followed the rules, often for 5 or 10 years, to earn their permanent right to stay. Under Reform's plan, these individuals would have to reapply for visas every 5 years, facing ever stricter conditions like higher salary thresholds. It would create a permanent state of fear and uncertainty for hundreds of thousands of people. It would affect doctors, nurses, tech workers and neighbours, and our family members. And as Starmer rightly said, it would send a shiver down their throat. This policy isn't just cruel, it's an administrative nightmare that would overwhelm the immigration system and face endless legal challenges. Even more telling is how unpopular it is. Polling shows that the public is overwhelmingly against this kind of permanent exclusion. One analysis found that just 3% of people support a system that permanently excludes migrants from welfare benefits, with massive support for making exceptions for long-term residents and key workers. By pushing such a hardline policy, Farage may have massively overreached, handing his opponents a powerful weapon to show the real danger he poses to decent, hard-working migrant families. And just look at the blatant double standard. Reform quickly clarified that this wouldn't apply to EU citizens with settled status, a largely white group. The policy would therefore disproportionately affect people from Commonwealth countries and the wider world, people who are more likely to be black or Asian. This is precisely why Starmer and many others have labelled the policy as racist. It is discriminatory by its very design. This is the shame the right-wing media is hiding. They're championing a party whose central policies are built on a foundation of cruelty and discrimination. When they scream that Starmer is calling voters racist, what they're really doing is throwing up a smokescreen to hide the deeply problematic nature of Farage's agenda. They don't want you to look too closely at the details of their plans, which involve suspending human rights laws and international obligations. They don't want you to think about what it means to tear a family apart because someone who has lived here for 20 years suddenly fails a new arbitrary visa requirement. They can't defend that. So instead, they lie. Ultimately, what happened at the Labour conference was simple. Keir Starmer held up a mirror to the modern British right, and they recoiled in horror at their own reflection. The face staring back at them wasn't the moderate one-nation conservatism they once claimed to represent. It was the face of Nigel Farage. It was the face of a divisive, grievance-fueled politics that, as Starmer puts it, doesn't like Britain. The frantic, coordinated media meltdown was not the righteous anger of outlets defending their readers, it was the panicked lashing out of an establishment that has lost its way. For decades, the right-wing press has been a kingmaker in British politics, mostly through its alliance with the Conservative Party. But with the Tories, a spent force, these papers have made a Faustian pact with Farage. They need his energy, his voters and his political momentum, but they are terrified of being publicly associated with the raw, ugly reality of his politics. Starmer's speech forced them to look at their new champion and what he truly represents. It forced them to confront the moral implications of their political alignment, and they didn't like it. So, instead of engaging with the substance of the critique, they tried to smash the mirror. They cooked up a story about Starmer insulting voters because it was an easier fight to have. It let them play their tired old role as the defenders of the common person against an out-of-touch elite. This whole episode reveals the deep insecurity at the heart of the modern right. They are propping up a leader whose core message is that Britain is broken, a politics in decline and despair. They are backing policies that are not just unpopular but fundamentally un-British in their cruelty, and they know it. The freak out isn't about Starmer, it's about their own reflection. It's the rage of seeing what they have become and the desperate, frantic attempt to hide their reality from everyone, especially themselves. So no, Keir Starmer did not call millions of voters racist, and believe me, I'm no Starmer fan because of a number of policies they're pursuing, like their attack on the trans community, the welfare and the poor as well. But even I can spot a racist policy in a racist leader. He called a specific immoral and racist policy exactly what it is, and in doing so he exposed the profound hypocrisy of a right-wing media that has become a mouthpiece for Farage's divisive agenda. Their hysterical rant, their blatant lie was an act of pure self-preservation. It was an attempt to hide their own shame, to cover up the fact that they are now the chief defenders of a political project that runs counter to the values of tolerance and fairness that most people in this country hold dear. They ain't defending their voters, they are defending their own terrible choices. And if you believe it's vital to cut through this kind of media manipulation and hold power to account, please consider supporting this channel by, please making this dour Yorkshire bloke happy by subscribing to the channel and sharing this analysis with someone who needs to see it to make a huge difference in fighting their narrative. And thanks for watching, my friends, and take care.